Ladies and gentlemen, what's up? What's good? We're back. Back again. It's been a while, but we wanted to hit you with a Leisure Fan Gab episode. I am Scott, Matthew,
What's up?
Andrew, Brien, AB.
Howdy.
Gentlemen, it's been a while since we've done this. We figured 2022 was going to be busy. Things were opening up, so we couldn't really record this on the regular, but we were going to do it when an idea struck us, something topical. And Andrew messaged us with an idea that he wanted to do for an LFG episode, and it was a great one. So, Andrew, what are we recording today?
We're going to make our own little franchise based on our own personal franchise. So, where I got this one from was I was listening to a podcast called Colors of the Dark, which is a horror podcast, and their topic was their favorite horror sequels. And at the end of the episode, they said, "Wouldn't it be fun if you made your own little franchise and put all of the numbers of the sequels where they coincide?" Yeah. So Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and Halloween 2, and then and put them all in order, and so then you have
Child's Play 3, and then that's what you tick off.
So you have your personal favorite watching order of a marathon of your favorite horror movies based on the sequels in order. And so, yeah, I thought that was a really neat idea. I would message these guys right away and be like, that's something fun to think about. We all love different franchises. We all love all the different sequels. And so, where would you put your stuff in rank? And it was fun to kind of like do some strategy on where you put your franchises and which ones ranked over others, and it was a good time. So I'm interested to see where you guys put your franchises, where you slotted them in, and so you could fit all of them in properly. And and then so like it's just for something for fun, and it's kind of like more on like your personal thing. So it's a personal kind of fun little franchise thing.
Yeah, we kept the stakes. Stakes are pretty low for this one. There's not so much in the way of rules. I think the only thing we kind of agreed on was one film per franchise. So we all love Star Wars, but where's the fun if you put A New Hope at 1 and Empire at 2 and Jedi at 3 and maybe one of the ones at 8 or 9? That's not really that fun. So we only decided that to use one film per franchise in it. So, you wouldn't want to use that many Avengers films. We'll get to it, but you know what I mean? They're all great in their own way, but it's where you want to slot it the most.
We're also really loosey-goosey on the numbers thing, like where things fall within.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of let's hear your logic on that.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I got some logic in the later ones, and we'll talk too. I mean, obviously, AB more than anyone opens himself up to the vast world of horror, because a lot of those franchises have gone into the teens, and I have barely made it past a 3, let alone I have really not followed Jason on the path to space, so I don't really know where you can fill those in. Yeah. So like I said, it's more more mainstream versus niche versus where you want to slot them in, because if you use something at 2, maybe the value isn't there if you want to use it later in 7 and 8. Matt, anything to add before we start, or we'll just get right into it?
It's interesting how when AB described on the podcast you listened to that it felt like the guys there were making it so that the marathon could kind of fit and flow. My list will not do that.
Of course not. I don't know.
I mean, mine. I mean, I'm a genre guy, so mine's got sections. Mine's got sections that you could watch over a weekend. Like, obviously, you're not going to watch 9 movies in a day. I mean, I'm almost done that during the lockdown.
The casuals may not, but
but you like I figured the way I look at this is you do mine maybe over a weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 each day, and so I think if you could kind of divvy it up
It's really funny.
No,
you
I'm
do say
looking
that
at my
because
list is bad. There's some jumps there.
I do feel like I might be able to talk myself into a little bit of a theme and how my list might ultimately circle back around. Now that I think of it, I didn't think of that, but I guess you couldn't watch them as one cohesive unit because clearly there are very many different intellectual properties.
Yeah.
But no, there are some themes as you get from 1 to 3 to even 6. We're going to do 9 films. So 7, 8, 9 kind of reverberate, like George said, it echoes, it rhymes. And I think I do kind of come to that. So, gentlemen, without further ado, you want me to kick it off? We got 9 movies each to talk about.
Let's do it.
Okay. So this was an interesting thing. And I was telling Matt off screen before Andrew got here, I kind of gauge everything I do off my new favorite app, Letterbox. So this is the first singular number 1 film that launches a franchise or launches intellectual property in that way. So this is a big one. This is obviously where you start, and this is where you want to lay the foundation, and you can go from anywhere from here. So it's got to be a big film. So I'm like, boy, it's got to be a film that I would give a 5-star review to, because you're not going to give something 4, 4.5. I thought about a movie like Beverly Hills Cop, but then I'm like, I gave it 4.5 stars. This has to be a true blue 5-star film. It has to be a film that I would never bat an eyelash at rewatching any single day of the week. It has to be one that has transcend cinema in its regard. And again, started a franchise in that. And I had a tough battle between 2 films. I'm sure I'm talking about the other one later on. But ultimately on a film that launched a superstar, launched a franchise, and redefined the genre in it. My pleasure to pick with my, I guess I call it first overall draft pick, is the 1988 classic Die Hard.
Excellent.
Mainly the reason I picked this, you have an incredible story with an incredible character played by a fantastic, perfect for the role, Bruce Willis. The action is incredible. The villain in Rickman is amazing. He really started Hollywood on that. Oh, maybe we should give more admiration and respect to the villains of it too, because they make the characters and the lead stars go. There was a few other films that I was going to pick at one, but ultimately, anyone who knows me, we've done a bunch of these. My number 1 favorite style of films are films that play out like plays, right? Small cast of characters, everyone kind of does their part, mostly confined to one central location, right? My favorite Hitchcock is Rope for that reason. Now, I'm not saying this plays out like a play. It has at the time, $130 million budget, but it all takes place in Nakatomi Plaza. And as it goes, you find out a little bit more. Then there's guys that come from the outside into it, but it's all confined to just the bubble on one night. The fact that it's a lovely Christmas watch, the fact that we did a commentary for it, it's just one of the most lovable, admired films. So for that, for the friendship between him and Al Powell, for my guy, Art Bachner's Heat Check, my number 1 launching franchise film, the one that I would give 5 stars tomorrow if I watched it, is 1988's Die Hard.
That's great.
Thanks.
One that you watch, one that pretty much gets watched every year. I think
of course.
Yes.
I think last year.
And that's part of the reason.
Last year was the only year. I mean, this last Christmas I watched it, but the year before that was the first year I hadn't watched.
No, the year before that we did the commentary, 2020, baby.
No, I mean 2020. Oh yeah, one of the years I missed 1 year.
Yeah.
But
that's another reason too. It's a movie that gives it a little edge. Like I said, between that and another one, it gave it the edge because you always watch it. I watch it every single year. I will. Yeah. You will always. So yeah. It's one that's incredible. And the other thing too is there was a few other movies that I wanted to put there, but if I don't own the pops for them, I can't give it that edge. I own the Die Hard pops, same as you. So I looked at my shelves and was like, what do I give space to? Because, Alien is a great film, but I don't have Alien pops. So that's why I had to go the edge on this. So Matthew, take us away.
To come off that, I mean,
we're going to spend 9 minutes talking about it. Matthew, give me your one. We have 27 films.
Okay. Picking my number 1 was at the hardest part of this list, because usually the first film in a franchise tends to be the best. And I can give you a list of a bunch of the movies that went through: Jurassic Park, Karate Kid, Beverly Hills Cop. Die Hard was on that list as well. I'm representing the Mighty Ducks on my jersey because it's not on my list today.
Ooh.
But The difference between my number one and all those other franchises is I like all of those franchises. So I picked my number one to be a movie that kicks off a franchise, but I never watched the other movies, like ever.
Ooh,
My
all
number
right.
one
Oh,
is,
I know.
and Scott said it
There.
best. If you don't own the Pops, don't talk about the movie. Pop,
exactly.
pop. Poster. My number one is Jaws.
Yeah, of course. That's exactly.
Yeah. That's great.
Steven
That's a great number
Spielberg's
one.
Jaws, unlike 2, 3, and 4, which has no involvement from the King. That's why I haven't watched them, and I've heard they're terrible.
I like them. I'm gonna go out there, and I like all of. I mean, I don't like all of them, but there's moments in each. But yeah, that's a great pick. Yeah.
And similar to what Scott said about Die Hard, it's a movie that redefined cinema. Absolutely, is the first legitimate blockbuster making over $100 million, and had lines around the block to get tickets, and that's what defined blockbuster. It's a movie I watch every year. It's coming pretty close around July 1st and 4th. There's that week that the movie spans in itself that I usually watch. That's when, excuse me, and that's when I tend to watch it. There's date checks. Mayor Vaughn says tomorrow's the 4th of July, so I tend to watch Jaws on July 3rd just so I can be like, oh, he's right.
I send you guys dates and movies all the time.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Also when Enzo swims in his shark vest, I sent you Jaws quotes. So we bond over these number ones. These are great choices.
That's true.
My number one is Jaws.
All right. I mean, my number one, just like your guys' number ones, is also a 5-star movie that kicked off a ginormous, humongous, one of the biggest franchises of all time. I think MCU has kind of surpassed it now, but it's still going strong. I'm wearing a shirt. We're going to start off with the first movie I've ever seen in the theater with my parents. And it changed my life forever, and that is Star Wars, and would become to know as Episode 4.
If you saw it 45, if you saw it on opening night, it was 45 years ago today.
That's right. Yeah, as we're filming it, it is the anniversary, which it seems so very appropriate that it would be today that we'd be filming this. I mean, what do I need to say about Star Wars that hasn't already been said? Like
Nothing
I said,
but Star Wars.
It changed my life forever. I have a stormtrooper tattoo on my back. I had to, like you said in yours though, Scott, that you had to go with something that you liked the best, the first movie over the other ones. This is one of the few ones on my list that I don't like the best. I'm an Empire fan, but for strategy wise, I went with A New Hope, and just for the impact. This is the number one film, the first film that kicked off the Empire, the Star Wars Empire, and it kind of for the significance of it having its anniversary today. So I was like, there's one franchise that's will always be in my heart no matter what, and that's Star Wars. So I had to kick it off with that. So that's my number one.
Of course, that was awesome. That was I think I ended the Mack Flash 5 finale talking about Star Wars, and it was a mutual for all three of us that we talked about.
Of course.
And Kenobi will probably be doing LFGs for that. I'd like to. So Star Wars is, if nothing else, the linchpin of our friendship back when they made movies. We just talked about.
Yeah.
We're gonna kick it. So this is where I had the most internal struggle, guys. This is where God damn it, Scott. You're going to say. So you guys know how much I love a certain sequel. AB knows, certainly. One of the best sequels of all time, universally beloved. And I actually talked about this with some friends at a wedding this past weekend. I was just like, I'm going through a list and I got to come up with what I think is my favorite sequel. And everyone's like, well, you're going to pick this. And I say, yeah, definitely. But I didn't feel it until I actually looked. Because it's all about being honest and truthful to yourself. With that said, there was 2 sequels, both with mega gigantic, love of my life actors at the forefront of them. But I like this one just a little bit more. And that's 2003's Bad Boys 2 as the best, most favorite second movie of all time. Sorry, Terminator 2. Guys, Will Smith is my favorite thing in film. So you don't think I'm going to pick Apex Mountain Will Smith as Mike Lowry being the absolute coolest Miami narcotics officer of all time? Bad Boys 2 is a 5-star movie to me. Not a lot of people. Apparently, the reviews are really bad on Letterboxd. They just don't get it. I was in grade 11 when this movie came out. Are you kidding me? This was honestly, for anybody, probably the greatest made film for a person who loved the actors involved at the perfect time of his life. Because Will, in his Lamborghini, looking cool in his shades, spinning, looking, now show him your badge. I was just like, I'm a puddle. I'm not leaving this seat. Let's just run back the 10 p.m. showing. I've seen Bad Boys 2 2 times. It is a lovely film, not for everybody, but it is most certainly my favorite second film in a franchise. And some second films in a franchise have won a Best Picture. And I like those as well, too. But I can't deny that I want this list to be personal for me. And God damn if I don't love me Bad Boys 2.
And that's where we're going with this, right? This has been like what we think is the best list of things. This is a personal list, so we're doing this for fun. And it's kind of the exercise. What would you, if you had to pick movies to sit down and run through? What would you pick? So I can't.
And I'm already on a little bit of a. Well, I guess an ACAB theme of 1 and 2, but geez. I'm definitely going blue line on movies 1 and 2.
Oh man,
Matthew?
Which fits that flow.
That's what I'm saying. I know.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
My number 2 was easy. It was before I picked like I said, my number 1 was hard. My number 2 was absolutely simple.
I know both of your twos.
Yeah. Obviously.
I pay attention, my friends.
Similar to my number 1, there's a poster of it right over there. My number 2 is The Empire Strikes Back. This is the Steelbook Blu-ray. Very few films can outshine their predecessor. Empire Strikes Back is one of them. I think AB's number 2 is probably the other one. And of course, Scott thinks Bad Boys 2 is better than Bad Boys 1. There's the argument for The Godfather 2 being better than Godfather 1. Empire Strikes Back is right with it.
Mighty Ducks 2 is better than Mighty Ducks number 1 too.
A lot of people think that as well.
I
don't have a Mighty Ducks 2 jersey, so I wore this one. In The Empire Strikes Back, we get to see Luke and his force powers get stronger. We meet one of the greatest cinematic characters of all time in Yoda. We meet one of the second most beloved Star Wars characters in Boba Fett. All of this happens in The Empire Strikes Back. We're introduced to Lando Calrissian, another fan favorite.
Hello.
What have we here? Probably my most quoted Star Wars line of all time. Because anytime if I see like a toonie on the ground, hello, what have we here? If I see the pop I want on the shelf, hello, what have we here? But to sum up what Empire means to a lot of people, I'm going to read a quote from actually a number 1 part of a franchise. Empire has the better ending. I mean, Luke gets his hand cut off, finds out Vader is father, Han gets frozen and taken away by Boba Fett. It ends on such a down note. That was from Clerks. Empire Strikes Back is my number 2.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, like I said, in my number 1, I love Empire more, so I support that pick because that is my favorite of that particular franchise. And just like that, you guys have alluded to, my number 2 is a movie that I have seen the most out of any movie ever. It is a movie that I watched as a regular. I would put it on VHS as I played with my toys and just have it running, and then I would start it again, and so it would constantly be on. I can quote not only all the dialogue, but I can make all the sounds as they happen. Doors opening, blasters going, pulse rifles going, and that would be Aliens. And so, like Matt said, it is one of the rare movies that arguably is better than its predecessor. I do love Alien as well, but Aliens, it's just a different flavor for you. Alien is a horror movie. It's kind of full of suspense and a lot of tension, whereas Aliens is a all-out adrenaline-filled action movie from start to finish that has all the James Cameron staples. Your strong female character in Ripley, and we did previously we did a favorite movie character list in a previous episode, and Ripley made that list for me, my top 5 movie characters of all time, because there is no other female character that I love more than Ellen Ripley, and she gets her very much moment to shine in this, where I mean, Sigourney Weaver, Sigourney, I mean,
Freudian slip.
maybe no. Sigourney Weaver is one of my all-time favorite actresses. She's just unbelievably great, and this is her magnum opus is in Aliens, and yeah, it's just a fantastic movie that I've seen literally hundreds of times, and I'm talking like 400, 500 times. So there's no way that I was not going to put this at 2, and these guys obviously knew that. So yeah, Aliens.
I am one of the camp that Aliens is always on the list. I'm very much an Alien guy because of the different flavor. Because again, going back to what I like, plays out like a play, multiple characters holding their own in a spot. How they trend, like, it's like an Agatha Christie novel almost. And again, that's exactly what I like more. But you can't fault Aliens because it's a classic. Again, that's like, it's JC, man. That's JC getting that clout so we can cash it in later on a multitude of things. So that's a great choice. My 3's easy, guys. I'm so sorry. I should put my favorite Star Wars is Return of the Jedi. These guys know this about me. I wish this was Return of the Jedi. For strategy, it's not. But that would have been so awesome if we came off the hop with one of the original trilogy. Guys, we did a favorite sequels episode of the Mack Flash 5. So this kind of like was easy because this movie was my number 1 favorite sequel of all time. So it had to be my number 3. And as AB alluded to, Star Wars has most likely been surpassed by a franchise. This is the right tippy top of the apex mountain of it, culminating in Avengers Infinity War. So this is counting as the 3rd Avengers film, one of the biggest movies of all time. I certainly give it a little slight edge over Endgame, being all about the payoff. I think this film just balances, 20 main characters so incredibly broken off into different groups fighting a common enemy in Josh Brolin's portrayal of Thanos, who gives him a very deeply personal story. Thanos arguably being the main character of this film, and in his eyes, the protagonist. But again, as you look, this being at the time in the 20s of films, and you're losing a few people on their contracts and you're balancing screen time and everyone's got to get their own. Funny enough, I almost picked Guardians 1 in the first spot because that movie holds a very special place in my heart. But I ultimately thought getting a lot of the Guardians interactions in this film, especially with the Gamora and the Quill stuff, and then you get Groot disappearing for Rocket, and then you get one of my favorite parts of the movie, Star-Lord's decision and his mistake ultimately, which people hate, but Star-Lord's my favorite character in MCU, and it fit his character. So for that, as I said, it's a slam dunk episode, so it's a slam dunk choice. And the last thing I'll say, if I can still keep talking about Star Wars, I certainly wasn't alive for the father reveal, but you guys know what a special place in my heart the snap is the I am your father moment for me, where my jaw was on the floor being like, holy shit, where do we go? What are we going to do? And we're still exploring that in the MCU. So my 3rd favorite film venturing off into a new franchise is the MCU with Avengers Infinity War.
It has been called many times, especially by myself, as the Empire Strikes Back of the MCU.
Sure. Yep.
Down ending, of course, exactly. Yep. They introduce not a lot of new characters, but it's them all coming together, right? You get the interactions between Stark and Strange and all that. And then, you had just gotten Black Panther, so now you get a lot more of Wakanda too. So,
well, and you get what's going to carry forward with Thor and the Guardians, right? And the as Guardians of the Galaxy, as has been called after, and all that stuff is fantastic. I watched it not long ago, and that whole thing, it just works really well. Them playing off each other, and yeah, you're right. Everyone gets equal screen time. You get some great interactions that you probably might not see again between all these different groups of characters, and yeah,
it was a cultural phenomenon too. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. Remember that? That was huge that summer.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely. Matthew, let's get us in the draws.
Yeah. Yes, this is 3. Okay. Yeah. Picking number 3 again was not too difficult for my list. This is my favorite sequel of this franchise, and this may be like where we begin the explain your logic type points. But without a doubt, Rocky 3 is my favorite Rocky sequel. Now
another anniversary one this year.
That's right. We this is the 40th anniversary. It was released in 1982.
Yeah.
Now, of the franchise, Rocky is my favorite. My favorite Rocky sequel is Rocky 3. People will argue that 4 is better. And people will argue again, well, what about Creed? Well, Creed 1, I would say, also begins a new franchise, and I loved Creed. I did. It is part of the Rocky universe, but for sure, Rocky 3 is my favorite sequel in this franchise. For one big reason for it is that the championship belt, which I have a replica of, is like a very mainstay point of the movie. You see pictures, and it's terrific with Rocky wearing it. You see Clubber Lang wearing it. You have, and also in that movie, you have Hulk Hogan playing Thunderlips. He's wearing a championship belt. I am just a mark for championship belts. That for that reason alone, it makes it one of my favorite movies. You get to see the rise, and you get to see Rocky living in his most affluent point in his life. He's rich. He's got the big house on the big side of town. He's got statues made of him. He's getting ready to retire before Clubber Lang challenges him, and it kind of comes crumbling down as far as his emotional standpoint would be. Apollo Creed comes by and picks him back up, plays the Eye of the Tiger for him, trains him to come back and fight Clubber Lang to a victory. Another great part. Oh man, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm gonna have to edit this part out. What was the other thing I wanted to say about Rocky 3? I'm gonna interrupt like AV when he talks about his third movie. It's like, oh, and this part of Rocky 3 as well. No, I think I just have to end it there. Oh, it's gonna bother me for the rest of this show. Rocky 3.
You get Mick dying.
Mick dying is terrific, and we recently listened to a podcast where they poke fun at it, which I was not a fan of because it is a very emotional scene. I don't
think so. Sal nailed that. Oh, I don't know if you're still editing this out, but when Sal nailed that, he's like the unanswerable question. If Mickey knew, edit this out. But that was phenomenal. I thought that was a really good part. That's my favorite. That's my favorite Rocky too. But yeah, we'll get to that franchise again later.
And edit in. No. All right. Yeah. So my number 3 will probably come as no surprise. Maybe a little surprise thing. I had to include this franchise, and there are no movies after this movie, so I couldn't include anything more after this because there is literally no other movies that come after this movie. This is the last of this franchise, and that is my man Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. There are no movies after this. There are no movies being made after this. So this is the last of this franchise, and I had to include Indiana Jones in this. And I mean, this is a fantastic movie that I've seen a boatload of times. You have everything in this movie. You have all the returning characters of Brody Sala, but then you add the legend that is Sean Connery in an unusual role for him, where he's kind of playing the comedy side of things, where he's playing second fiddle to Harrison Ford and kind of playing the bumbling father type, which we hadn't really seen Sean Connery be before, and so it plays so well, the two of them together, just for laughs, and also for Sean Connery proves himself worthy over and over again in this movie as well. So it's two legends, Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, come together in an Indiana Jones movie. So Indiana Jones has been part of my life for most of my life, and it's no surprise that I had to put this on this at the number 3 slot, just because I had to have Indy on there, and I couldn't put him in at 1, 2, so he has to go on 3. because there ain't no 4 or 5 or anything else.
You don't know if there's not a 5. You have to see it first.
I'm so glad Indy. Well, I'm so glad Indy is on this list because it's such a I always say, I'm like, the fact that they are making a new one, the fact that they're only making 5 or 4, but 5 is a crime. This should be like Indy 9. Like, why did this not go? This never made any sense.
You got to pick up your young Indiana
Jones. Yeah. They're good.
This should be Harrison's really 9th portrayal of the character.
Yeah, I stand by it with you, Matt. I actually really like the Young Indiana Jones adventures. They're very good. I mean, the film quality is kind of, the production value is not as great, obviously, but it's still solid stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And I had the comic books and stuff growing up, so it's just a franchise that I will always celebrate. So yeah, gotta have it on this.
Great choice. I'm so glad I made it. You guys want to get nuts?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get nuts from here on out.
It gets hairy.
Yes.
4 guys.
I was going to ask, at which point does your list
go?
This
is for me. It does, because this movie, I'll admit, I love this movie more than both of you. You guys are gonna groan when you see what it is.
All right.
I enjoy this movie more than most people. This movie was also at a very special time, and it was a big cultural phenomenon. And we'll get into it a little bit. At face value, it's fine. We'll talk about why I love it so much, because there are some big scenes in it. I don't even know what to say before it. Is it the best one? Is it the best one in the franchise? Of course not. Oh. But will I defend it and say, guys, it's better than you think? My number 4 is Jurassic World from 2015.
You knew you were getting groans from this.
You guys are nuts. Jurassic World is actually unbelievable. It's not the Jurassic I'm used to, though. It's not. Park is better. Park is better. World is phenomenal. World is awesome. Chris Pratt, great, coming off Guardians, blown away by his portrayal of Star-Lord. The next summer, Jurassic World. I just started managing the movie theater, so right there, that first week, so I have good memories tied to the film in that regard. I think it's a really fun reboot, reinvention, continuation of the franchise. I think the fact with the park opening, with the park politics, with Bryce Dallas Howard's character, she's juggling stuff from the eccentric owner and all this stuff to kind of keep the legacy going and create new scary monsters. It's the logical next step of the franchise. And it was that franchise was lying dormant since 3. This was nowhere. This was the next logical thing to do.
I'm just really glad that you chose this and not Fallen World at 5, because I think we would have just shut it down. Me and Matt.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, man. Five was the easiest choice for me. We'll get to 5 in a second. So with this, and I do want to say one thing, I am blown away by this film and the dramatic stuff between Pratt and the Raptors. That's my favorite part of it. The stuff with Pratt training the Raptors. I have had dogs my whole life. Labs, retrievers, now I have a little pug. So I love the stuff with him and Blue. It's so weird to see because Blue does not exist. Blue is a CGI creature. Blue is a guy with tennis balls on his head wearing a green leotard. I think that's incredible. And I rewatched one of the scenes, and I will be honest, I get chills every single time. The final battle, when the Indominus Rex has the old T-Rex by the throat, the sound cuts out, they look up, and Blue is rounding the corner and speeding up. I'm like, holy effing shit, LFG. That is one of the, if I put on the list, that is by far one of my most crowd cheer moments that I've actually had with people being like, oh my God, Blue's back. Blue jumps on the Indominus Rex. They all team up against it, and then the water dinosaur eats it. I'm like, this is great. This movie's great. Pratt looks cool as hell in the Henley. I didn't even realize I'm wearing one too. He looks cool as hell in the Henley, wearing the vest and on the motorcycle with them. I love Jurassic World. I'm actually way more into it than I was at the start. I was so embarrassed. I love Jurassic World. I'm so excited for 6. You bring everyone back. Fallen Kingdom does have some really, really, really interesting stuff. I like the first half of that film, and the second half has the stuff about buying rare animals, hunting them for sport. Both ideas are cooked about 70% of the way, but I do think it does have some interesting stuff in it. But Jurassic World was so cool, man. I'm down with Jurassic World.
There are some points to the movie that I will agree with your statement. As far as the story is concerned, the basic plot of the movie is that Jurassic Park has been open for quite some time, and people are actually starting to get bored of it. So they have to come up with new dinosaurs for
100%. If you're going to say that's not what would happen, that's 1,000% what would happen.
And
People
I
would
agree
get
completely.
super bored with dinosaurs right away.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree to that.
Yeah,
with that
I thought
point
you were going to be like,
completely.
hey, people would love it. I'm like, no, you have to. Twitter would get on it, and one TikToker would be like yawn, and that would crush the stock.
There's so much more about that movie that I dislike than like, but the basic plot, I will agree, is obviously the next step.
And I'll be honest, I don't think Pratt, there's some very cringe stuff that Pratt says. It was originally Josh Brolin who dropped out, and Brolin's a much better actor. Pratt's the handsome MTV guy. I still like him. I'm one of the few that still rides or dies. But guys, Blue the Raptor. Who wins the movie? Blue the Raptor. I cannot stress to you. Go rewatch that scene. That scene is A+. For Halloween, I will be Owen and Enzo will be Blue. Matthew, what is your 4?
All right, 4.
My number 4 is something
I love our pace, guys. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of us for our pace.
My number 4 is something I really enjoyed. It's a movie that brought me back to the franchise and enjoyed it very much because I skipped the third one of this. My number 4 is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Oh, okay.
I love the first movie. The second movie is not great, but aged kind of appropriately. It's very much a 2000s.
I was in grade 8 and I thought it was cool as hell.
3 is terrific, but I didn't see 3 in the theaters. I didn't even see 3 until after I saw 4. Wow. I saw Ghost Protocol in the theaters in IMAX. I enjoyed myself very much, and I figured, well, I should go see 3 because there might have been some plot points or pieces of information that I didn't have, and there were. But even without it, I enjoyed Ghost Protocol immensely. It's got Simon Pegg in the field, adding some comedy, which is terrific. It doesn't detract. None of the Mission Impossible movies have ever gone so far away from the original show, where masks and sets and lies are all part of their mission. Is terrific. Paula Patton joins Tom Cruise on this mission. She's terrific. We get, and I was hoping for, and this was kind of the draw, Josh Holloway makes.
I was just gonna say, I went to see it because Josh Holloway was
exactly because I was a huge Lost mark, to see him, I was like, oh, this is gonna be terrific. And he has what is pretty much an extended cameo, but still does. I think he has one line in it, which is paramount to like, don't trust anybody or something like that. But like I said, there are a lot of Easter eggs reverting to the first movie, where at one point Tom Cruise gets onto the phone and he has to enter his password, Bravo Echo 11, which is a line he used in the first movie. He's like, I like that very much. Jeremy Renner is introduced into the franchise, and he does a terrific job. Tom Cruise is this his apex? Absolutely not. But he does a very good job in this movie. We're in the fourth film of a franchise. This Ghost Protocol does it for me very much.
Ghost Protocol, I was a hair away from putting it at 4, and ultimately I do like it more than Jurassic World. Read into that what you will, but what a great choice. The Burj Khalifa scene is that owned the summer. Yeah, that's all anybody wanted to talk about was that scene in that film. It's one of the most rewatchable scenes of the last 10 years in a film. If that is on and he's putting on the gloves, I'm just like, we're not going anywhere for 13 minutes, guys.
And I saw that in IMAX, and you get shivers when he exits out that window, and you 100%. Feel.
How many times do I quote you? You want to talk about a movie quote I quote? Is how many times when you say something and I'm like, no shit. It seems your glove's losing stickiness. No shit.
You don't have enough rope.
Yeah, that's it. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right. So my number 4 is I don't have to apologize for. This is the first one on my list that can be argued that is better than any of its predecessors. This is a movie that should not have worked when it came out. This is a movie that came out 30 years after it's the third entry, does not have the main star in it, has a totally different cast, and it burst onto the movie screen and was an adrenaline-filled ride that I enjoyed multiple times
Yes,
in the theater.
excellent.
Mad Max
I
Fury
knew you'd
Road.
pick it. I should have called this
And
too.
I had to. I mean, there's no movie at 4 that I love more than I love Mad Max Fury Road. I saw it, like I said, multiple times in the theater because I could not get enough of it. It is just, when you put it on, it does not stop until the end credits, and you go out of that watching that movie and you want to run through walls, because it is just an adrenaline filled ride from start to finish. And like I said, it should not have worked. We were talking 30 years later. Doesn't have Mel Gibson in it, the Mad Max. Mad Max is hardly even the main character of the movie. He's just kind of he's along for the ride. You got Charlize Theron totally stealing this movie and
She's
owning
incredible.
this movie. And so it should not have worked on paper. But what George Miller did, and when you watch the behind the scenes stuff of how much work went in there, and the vast majority of this movie is not CG. That's all practical stuff with CG implements on it. And when you see that kind of stuff and that kind of effort and passion put in a movie, that just gets me going. So there's no way that Mad Max Fury Road was not making this list. That I was one that I probably penciled in before I penciled in 1 through 3. It was no doubt. Number 4, Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, I knew you'd pick it. I just didn't want to ride the hype. It wasn't my style of film, but I can admire, you guys know what my brand is, but I can admire the aesthetics and the art that goes into it. It's an incredible chase scene with, how are they doing this? When I saw it with you guys. I saw it with the AB certainly. But I was like, how are they doing this? You got to think they're rigging this. How are they getting the cameras to get the flames going and the guitar at the same time? Then the camera's coming down and whatever, the boys, the skeleton, but they're shooting the stuff. I'm just like, oh my God, this is everything has to be so precise, or else you have to pick it up from one and you're in the 130 degree heat. Oh, unbelievable. Yeah. That was the maestro work of George Miller in that. And the technical stuff was rewarded at the Oscars as such. So it's funny that you say that about your 4, because my 5 was a movie that I was like, okay, let's pencil that. Let's get it out of the way. And let's work the list around 5.
I know where this is going.
Absolutely, guys. It's by far one of the greatest action movies of the last 20 years, of a much maligned now franchise, but we injected a whole new character in this, and it saved it. And I'm talking about 2013's.
That was one where I was like, there's no doubt in my mind that's where this is going.
Guys, this is literally on the same bar of a Terminator 2. Unironically, have you guys both actually seen this? Have you seen Fast 5?
I did. I actually saw this in theaters.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, is this the one? Did they go through a mountain on this one?
No, that's 4. That's the end of 4. Okay, so this is the first one with Dwayne Johnson. This is actually an incredible film. I understand the franchise gets maligned now, and I can't even defend 9, although 10 is boasting a very impressive cast, and that'll be interesting to see how they tie up the franchise. But apex mountain of this franchise is most certainly Fast 5. Bringing everybody. 1 was great. 1 was very gritty. 2 and 3 were their own weird things. 3 was trying to do the American Pie thing and just doing a different car story. They brought everybody back at 4, but 5 is when they really said, we're going to put money behind this and we're going to turn this into an actual heist thriller action franchise. And this is when they've done it the best. Introduced Dwayne Johnson as the agent who's hunting them, Luke Hobbs, and it gives it a whole new dynamic. Honestly, this movie is incredible. It's how the team is trying to get their names cleared, but then they have to rob a Brazilian drug lord, and the end is them taking the safe and driving the safe through. It's nonstop casualties and destruction and damage throughout, but god damn if it isn't incredible when they open the safe and that song hits. It's by far, like I said, a much maligned franchise, and the family element is played to death by Twitter and the internet. But at this time, when you incorporated Tyrese from the second movie, and Brien and Paul Walker and Dom are doing their thing, played by Vin Diesel. It's Jordana Brewster's in it. You get the debut pretty much for American audiences for Gal Gadot is in this as well too, and she looks incredible. She steals the film. So by far, as soon as I knew, there's not a lot out there in the realm of the fifth films, but I knew that Fast Five was cemented, signed, sealed, delivered as my number 5.
I saw it.
Right? I'm glad you did.
I have not.
It is so goddamn good, guys.
I just remember I think I was at this point where I saw commercials and there was like mini guns and like helicopters and tanks and stuff, and I was like, wait, isn't this franchise?
I think the tank is
like
6. I feel like the tank is 6 because that's when Dom jumps off the tank and he grabs her, Letty, and catches her on the hood, and that's a little bit where it's like, wow, he would be paralyzed. But 5, aside from until they get to the safe, but the safe is just popcorn fun. But up into that, it's like a heist. It's like legitimately the very low action. It's just a high budget.
I just remember thinking like, wait, isn't this franchise about street racing? Like, and how did we get here? How did we get from like racing cars in the street to tanks and helicopters and miniguns?
It's funny.
I guess that's how franchises work, right? You got to go bigger and better.
Yeah.
That's kind of
bigger. I don't know about better. I don't know about bigger, but
because
bigger.
The plot line to the first one was the street racers are hijacking transport trucks and stealing DVD players. Doesn't work today.
No, this is you might like it, man. The heist stuff is really cool. After take us away, what do you got?
Right, 5 was a hard one to pick. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I was looking around my room and the shelves and thinking, okay, what's a good 5? And I had to go through the Wikipedia of franchises and count out and do some logics like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yeah, I like this movie. That'll work. My number 5 is X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Ooh, awesome. Very nice.
Great.
Yes, it is the first sequel to X-Men First Class, but chronologically speaking and in release order, there's X-Men 2, 3. I skipped Origins Wolverine because that starts a new franchise.
And it's bullshit.
So 4 is First Class and 5th is X-Men Days of Future Past.
I support that.
Taking place between the two different timelines set further into the future. I think the year is supposed to be 2024 or something, and then sending Wolverine back to the 70s where we get to see to see the young Professor Xavier and the young Magneto, and we get to heal the team because they have a common enemy in Mystique, and the objective is to try to stop her from killing somebody because that's what sends her over the edge, and that's why mutants hate us. This is the lynch point in time that we have to prevent from happening. We get Peter Dinklage playing Bolivar Trask, the creator of the Sentinels, and he's terrific. We get Quicksilver and his high speed but slow-mo action scene set to the tune of AB
Time in a Bottle.
Time in a Bottle. That's correct.
I got you. I watched that scene quite a bit.
In the future, we get to see the X-Men, the remaining X-Men, excluding Wolverine, and
you get the introduction of Bishop.
You get the introduction of Bishop,
which is, I was like all in. I'm like, Bishop, let's go.
And in the future, they're fighting a new breed of Sentinel that can adapt to their to who they're fighting against, and you slowly see them getting picked off one by one. There's very much a time limit in this movie. In the 70s, you get to see the X-Men doing their thing, and in an interesting choice, they're not wearing their costumes. They're all in street clothes throughout the entire movie. Mystique is kind of an exception because her costume is her blue skin, or that's what she really looks like. So when she transforms, that's a costume. And Beast being the other one, his costume being Nicholas Hoult in skin, and what he really looks like is the blue fur, which was something I didn't like in that movie. When I want to see Beast, I want to see blue fur Beast. His like Hulk transformation really didn't do it for me. That was very much a Nicholas Hoult maybe thing where he's like, the people have to see my face. I'm an actor. I want them
Yeah.
to see what I look
Plus,
like.
he had
That's-
clout because
that's-
he was engaged to Jennifer Lawrence at the time.
Sure.
Well,
So he had that J-Law clout.
and he got the connection to Fury Road there with Nicholas Hoult.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And so yeah, you're right. I did not like that because you know, it's not something that happened really in the comics. Beast is always blue, always blue, always blue.
One thing I did enjoy was the reverting back to Wolverine's bone claws.
Yeah.
So
cool.
at the climax of the movie, he can't take down Sentinels like he would in present day with the adamantium, where he would cut them down like, you know,
shred
a hot knife through butter. He's dealt with pretty quickly by Magneto. He wraps him up in rebarb, throws him into the Potomac, where he is presumably set to drown until he's revived later in the movie. So one of the main stars in probably the biggest action sequence of the movie is dealt away with, which I thought was another brave choice in the movie.
Well, it's good too because I mean, X-Men has always been like Wolverine centric. Over like in the comics and in the movies, and like I get it, Wolverine is awesome, but like focusing on some other people. So yeah, it gave some time to shine for some other people. You got X2, which is like basically another Wolverine movie. And so to have that where you get these other characters some screen time and you get to see them actually do stuff with minus Wolverine is great.
I can't believe you. I'll say we'll sum this up. The best part of that film is, good Lord, is heroin addict Charles Xavier. And no, I'm not even joking. And Patrick Stewart, and then having their conversation. It's an incredible. And then how you get a older Magneto, Ian McKellen, and Patrick Stewart, and they're like how they make peace and they team up, and then you get chills. You're like, oh my god. And then they're like, we wasted so much time fighting. Meanwhile, while Fassbender's lifting up RFK Stadium, and then you're just like, oh my God, we're doomed to repeat all this. And then Charles speaks to Charles to help him get on the path to become Charles. It's so goddamn good. Like, again, we can compare a lot. This is actually more akin to Terminator 2 because with the time travel and the course correcting characters and all that and changing, getting, if you're going to give Charles Xavier the Linda Hamilton Sarah role and he has to become the Terminator 2 Sarah, and he's kind of flimsy and weak-willed in that, and as he was in First Class. It's incredible. What a great choice. Awesome.
All right. My number 5, this is where we're going to go on the AB road to, we're going to dip off the road on my next pick, but we're going to go on my road that you guys probably saw coming. Like Scott alluded to at the beginning, when you get this deep into franchises, it usually goes horror. But I'm not going to go the traditional horror ones. I'm going to go one of my first horror loves, and that is Hammer horror. And Hammer is Ride or Die with Dracula, and who's my favorite Dracula is Christopher Lee's Dracula. And I'm going to go with Taste the Blood of Dracula. And this is one from 1970. This is when at the tail end of Christopher Lee's Dracula. He's done 6 movies for Hammer as Dracula, and this is one of the ones near the tail end. So he's done a few before this. The best one being the first one here in North America. It's called Horror of Dracula. Over in the UK, it is just called Dracula. That is the best one for me. This one and the one that's 2 ones after this one, the Dracula AD 1972. Are my favorites, just because they have a different flavor. The Dracula kind of gotten stale at this point, where you're kind of rehashing the same old thing with, you've got Peter Cushing as Van Helsing, and the 2 of them battle. This one does not have Peter Cushing in it, unfortunately. But what it does is kind of reinvents it, and so this one is more of a Dracula revenge movie. We did an episode on revenge movies for our previous show, and who doesn't love a revenge movie? And this one has him taking his revenge on 3 old rich white guys who kill his servant, Dracula's servant, and think they got away with it. And so he resurrects and doesn't kill him himself. He seduces their daughters and son each of their daughters and son to kill them for him. So he sucks their blood, and what's great about this is like it's starting to get into 70s Hammer horror, which is vibrant blood horror and lots of blood, lots of sleaze. It's very sleazy. So you got Christopher Lee seducing these young women and then getting them to kill their fathers for him. And it's just a lot of fun. And you get a couple of iconic Christopher Lee Dracula shots at the very beginning. You get him with blood pouring out of his eye sockets, and then there's another one where he resurrects and he's got the full like bright blood red like solid eyes, and it just looks amazing. So yeah, I like I said, Christopher Lee is my Dracula, will always be my Dracula, and if I had to choose one, I'd choose horror Dracula. But for this list, to make it on this list, it's perfect at my number 5 spot. Taste of Blood Dracula.
Does he play 1 to 4? He's Dracula in all 5?
No, because they in Dracula, Son of Dracula, he's not in because it's his quote unquote son taking over the role, and then I think there's Daughter of Dracula. I think there's been 8 or 9 Hammer Dracula movies, and some of them don't have actual Dracula in it. It is like female Dracula,
or in the family name.
Yes, yeah. It's like kind of gets cheesy. So like I said, he's been in 6, but not all of them. But this is one of the better ones, I think. It's cool. Like I said,
cool, man. So he's been in 6, which is a great segue to bring me to my 6th franchise that was already said. I like 4 a lot. I like 5 a lot. I like 3 a lot.
It's funny.
I know. I like 6 a lot.
We may be talking about this movie again.
Of course. Do you want? Is that your 6? Do you just want to go now?
Yeah, I was fine. Yeah.
Let's team up. I'm going to move you up here. Let's high five. Okay. We saw this together. This is a lock at 6, guys.
This is a knock.
And you know what's? I rewatched this movie on New Year's Eve, and we did a marathon. This film plays out like number 5, part 2, because it does continue the Solomon Lane, who's Sean Harris, the villain story of it.
Amazing. My guy. I love Sean Harris.
4 is incredible. 5 is incredible. 6 is just like art. This movie is like. It's funny. I was going to say like an opera because it uses the opera. They go to an actual opera in 5, but this is like an actual operatic film. It is like unbelievably beautiful, unbelievably paced. I remember halfway through, I was like, how is this movie doing like this pacing and just feeling like this? Like I feel so different in watching this one. Like it transcends because Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol feel very much like movies, but I don't know. It's so hard to explain. Like even with the Wolf Blitzer opening, I'm just like, this does not feel like a normal film. This is like so beyond, and this is just Cruise. I think really realizing the end's near. He's turning 60 this year. We do have Dead Reckoning Part 1 and 2 coming up next to tie up the whole franchise, but I think Cruise is now him and McQuarrie's partnership is really they got the kinks out and they're really coming together for this film. The stunts are incredible. The inclusion of Henry Cavill, Rebecca Ferguson being back into the fold too. Just an incredible 6th film. And then the best thing.
What other film can you say that it gets to the 6th of the franchise and it is like heads or tails above everything else that's come before it? Like on a film level, like you can still make an argument that Mission Impossible 1 is the best, but like this one to me is just like you said, it's so much more than just its predecessors. It's kind of been building to this, like and like we've talked about this off camera, where Mission Impossible is a franchise that steadily climbs, and to me it has a dip in 2, but steadily climbs and climbs and climbs, and it keeps on climbing. Like it continually gets better and better with each entry, and it's just like, what other franchise does that? What other franchise can you say hasn't had hills and valleys? Most of them are and like that, where you have a drop off at like 4, 5, 6. Even in the horror world, it's a steady like
direct to video.
You direct to video stuff by this point. Whereas these are major cinematic events
Yeah.
when they're coming.
You know,
out.
the one thing that bugs me, and I mean, I don't know, this is such a tricky conversation. I'm just getting turned off. Maybe a little blemish on the MCU is the whole No Way Home for Best Picture. And I'm like, did anyone say Fallout for Best Picture? Because I feel like Fallout is a fucking killer Best Picture, especially what I want to say too, when you bring back Michelle Monaghan as like an important character in the third act. Almost the fourth act. There's kind of 4 acts to this film. So once you get to her and Wes Bentley and what they're doing, you're just like, holy shit. And then they realize and all that, and you're just like, this rules. This is incredible. And the fact that it ties it up more than just a glance of her at the end of 4. She comes back in it, and you're just like, wow, this is the payoff from 3. Yeah. You're like, this is all the payoff from previous films. So
she's part of the team.
Yeah, and then you get the stuff with Ferguson and her. It's awesome, man. Anything else? I just like, that was the thing, because I remember, like you say, you just say, should No Way Home be Best Picture? Is Love and Thunder going to get a Best Picture? I'm just prepping for that. Taika for Best Director, and I'm just like, man, McQuarrie had to balance so much in this, and like the whole scene where you think Ethan turns on the team to free lane and how that goes. And like, again, another beautiful scene, the water's coming up in the van, and you're just like, oh my God, this movie is unbelievable.
Yeah, and continues to up the stunts, the stunts on it. I mean, there's the whole stuff with the helicopter. The helicopter stuff gets me each and every time. I'm like, these are stunts that trained, like, seasoned helicopter pilots would not do. Tom Cruise had to do it by himself with a remote camera on the helicopter, because helicopter pilots weren't crazy enough to do what he was doing. And that's insane. That's insane. Like, that's stuff that, like, normal, like, what other movie star ever is still doing this stuff that he's done? But even in their prime, even when they're like young men, aren't doing the crazy stuff that Tom Cruise is doing in this. Like, it's just bonkers. So yeah, I mean, it was an easy choice at 6.
Awesome. So, I like that. You and I. Matt, what do you got?
A part of this franchise had to make my list because it's something I watch annually, all the time. And number 6 of that franchise fits very well on this list. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince.
Very good.
Yeah. I was wondering if I guess not, because though it gets very, very, very good. I was just like, I wonder if Harry Potter will get shut out. It's
not from me. No. Harry is 16 at this point, and he's very teenagery. His summer vacation is interrupted by Dumbledore, who takes him to recruit Professor Slughorn, and he's very much being used as a prop for Dumbledore to recruit Slughorn. He goes to school. He does not have the best time of his life there. He and Dumbledore have to plot out a way to get information from Slughorn regarding Tom Riddle and Voldemort and all that kind of stuff. In the meantime, Malfoy has joined the Death Eaters. He's tattooed himself, and he has been tasked with killing Dumbledore. And if he does not fulfill that task, Severus Snape will have to do it for him. There is the blood oath pact that he makes with Narcissa Malfoy, and if he does not do it, he will eventually die. Now, what a lot of people don't know, and include most of us and everybody else, is that Dumbledore is going to die anyways, and is revealed later that he asks Severus to kill him when the time is right. Again, because he sees into the future just a little bit for his
summarizing
own...
Matthew.
I know.
Why do you like it?
Why do I like it? Well, I like it. I like the whole franchise. And this is the 6th movie of this franchise. I needed a 6th movie, and it was hard to find one. And Dumbledore dies in it.
That's great. Great. It's a great scene. It's unbelievable. And the turn, and then you see it again from another viewpoint. I've only seen it once, but do you see that scene again later when you find out that he was in on it? It's like, is that in the next movie?
That will be in the last movie.
Yeah.
You get the flashbacks as to why Snape does.
Because you don't know that up until this point, you think that Snape is a villain up until the last movie.
Of course.
You think that these things. My one beef with this movie is they totally half-assed the ending from the book. in the book, they have all those the Bellatrix and Fenrir and everybody like have this big battle that destroys half of the school, and like blow out thing. Like in the movie, she kind of like blows up the lunchroom. Right, you got the dining room, and then they go out the front door and just run away. And I was just like, what?
Not before setting Hagrid's hut on fire.
Okay, like they blew up the dining room and they set Hagrid's house on fire. In the school, half the school is gone. They just blew up half the school, and like there's like people, strewn all over the school because they went in this big battle. Anyway, I'm nitpicking, but I just remember being in the theater and being like, what? What just happened? They just ran out the front door and nobody tried to stop them? Like, what's going on here? Anyway, other than that, it's a great movie.
Is this when you find the flashback that he liked Terry's mom, or is that in 8 too?
That's later too.
Yeah. All right. So we already did my number 6. You're going to number 7 there, mister.
Yeah, do you want me to? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So guys, I feel like now we're getting a little dicey. It's so funny that you said like this starts a whole new franchise, and I'm like, maybe it does, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But to me, if you really want to categorize, I can count this as the 7th film in a franchise. It is the first film in its own franchise. It is my favorite sports film in that regard, and I'm talking about 2015's Creed, directed by Ryan Coogler, which I am counting as a sort of Rocky 7, because you do have Rocky Balboa 6,
Adrian's Revenge,
a dead franchise, and then you do bring it back with Creed. The only reason I'm saying this is because it does use plot points and sets and scenes from Rocky Balboa that are visiting Adrian's grave. It's the same one, the chair there, all that stuff are excellent callbacks. The restaurant as well too. So I am counting it as my 7th film in a franchise, because ultimately it does help to watch the preceding 6 to understand this. Certainly to get an idea of the relationship of Apollo, who is Adonis, played by Michael B. Jordan's father. It's just incredible. I remember when I saw this movie, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe that they did this with the franchise. They rebooted it. They gave it a fresh coat of paint. They gave it like a hip hop mentality, and they gave it incredible stakes and revived it for, the 2010s audience, a boxing fan, and just like prolonged the franchise. I debated Rocky at 1. I debated Rocky 3. I was glad to settle it at Creed because, Apollo Creed is my favorite character in this franchise. So it feels right to pick the movie that he looms the largest over, probably. Is my choice at 7, and 7 gets dicey. So I was glad, I fudge around with this again at my 9 too. So my number 7 is a movie that on our sports episode, I had as my number 1. So I had to put it here because goddamn, I love Creed. So.
All right, Matt, what you got? Number 7.
Oh, it's me again. Okay. My number 7 features the greatest crossover in cinema history to feature Patrick Stewart, Star Trek Generations, where we get Captain Kirk meets Captain Picard for the first time, and we loved it.
The movie's horrible.
I love this too. I hate
far
Star
worse
Trek, and I love
Trek
that.
movies than this one. And I watched this one. There are Star Trek movies I have not even seen yet, and I've watched this like a dozen times. I forget the one. What's the?
I've seen everything. Nemesis. There's Nemesis with Tom Hardy. That's
no,
the last
I've seen that one.
Okay.
So the shitty one between Insurrection. That's one.
I've seen all of them, but
the shitty one between First Contact and Nemesis. I have not watched that one.
Sucks,
I'm with you, Matt. I like.
We are on the 7th part of our list. We are in the dirty. This was where our list was supposed to end before we realized we can get 8 and 9. Yeah, there's a lot to really. Oh, see, I'm looking at the back. They got the red uniforms. You get Cameron Fry in a Star Trek uniform.
Yeah,
who didn't love that?
I liked it.
It's fine. You just need a very heavy-handed excuse to get Captain Kirk in. What is it? Sorry, the Nexus, or what is he stuck in?
Yep, the Nexus.
Okay, that scene's cool. I like that scene, and I get it, but the Malcolm McDowell villain is so lame, and his
I love
death
Malcolm
is
McDowell.
so. Who doesn't? His character is
Yeah,
so lame.
fine.
It's all dumb. And then Kirk's death scene is so beyond bad. It's just kind of him, and it's just I don't know. I'm looking at it too, and you never with the reboot, but then you got to continue it so you don't get Kirk because Kirk stuck in the Nexus during this time, so you can't have a Hem and Pine interact in the reboots and stuff. I just saw this and I was just like, maybe I don't have the connection to Next Generation either. I mean, Stewart's great, but I've seen just like maybe 5 episodes of that. But it's cool that the franchise could cross over with both Very Days of Future Past. But again, just the whole Kirk stuff, I'm just like, oh man, this all just sucks for Shatner because it was Shatner.
See, I don't agree. You get to see.
He went out horrible death. Do not.
Oh sure, okay,
horrible.
But you do get to see the scene with Kirk and Picard interacting with each other, and you get to see how different they are as far as what kind of command they are.
It's what Star Trek fans had wanted up until that point for years and years and years.
Well, I think they wanted them to fight each other.
Sure, but they wanted to be in the same movie. They wanted the connection, and it was. I remember it being a massive event movie for that reason. Is that you have because at that point you had the old school Star Trek guys, and you had your TNG guys. And sometimes, I mean, there was still crossover on that, but there was a younger generation basically at that point, which was on the TNG tip. And it was a way to bring everybody together to the thing. And I'm not a Star Trek guy, but I remember the significance of it at the time being like, okay, this is really great because you're bridging the gap for all these fans to come together, and it's what people had wanted for a long time.
And there was a 7-season lead up with the show. The first episode of The Next Generation, you got to see DeForest Kelley as an elderly Dr. McCoy. James Doohan came back to play Scotty for an episode.
Yep.
And Leonard Nimoy came out of Star Trek retirement and got a 2-part episode in Star Trek The Next Generation. This was, the pinnacle for all of it.
That's cool, man. I wasn't part of the hype then, obviously. I think what movie did the year this come out? 94? I was 6. So I kind of missed out.
Did it come out in 94?
I don't know. That'd be amazing if you was right about that. I don't have the print is so small on here.
This First Contact, let me see. What's this movie called? Star Wars Generations.
94. Yep.
Yeah.
Holy
because
then
okay. Yeah.
That's
why I'm the movie tree champ, bro.
That's a perfect transition because my movie is from 1994. My movie changed the game as well. And my movie put new blood into a dead franchise. And it was brought on by its creator, who came back to its franchise. That man's name is Wes Craven. He went back to bring back his franchise from the dead. That is Nightmare on Elm Street 7, Freddy's New Nightmare. Nightmare on Elm Street was dead in the water. It was done. It was cooked. You had lunch boxes at this point. You had Freddy action figures. He was like doing late night appearances. He had a TV show where he was goofing off and doing all kinds of stuff. Freddy's Nightmare on Elm Street 6, he's doing like Nintendo Power Glove jokes. Like the franchise is a laughing stock of horror at this point. I mean, people still loved it, but it was dead. It was deader than dead. What Wes Craven did with this, he both directed and wrote this 2 years before he blew up horror with Scream and did all of his meta stuff with Scream with Kevin Williamson. He did here too. He takes the idea of taking a horror movie within a horror movie, and so you have everybody playing themselves in here. You have Wes Craven actually playing Wes Craven. You have Robert Englund playing Robert Englund in here. You have Heather Langenkamp playing Heather Langenkamp. They're all playing themselves, filming the next Freddy movie, and then you have Freddy coming inside of that. And you take a movie that's again become a joke, and you make it scary again, and you make it terrifying again, and gory, and the whole bit. And what it did at the time, and like I said earlier in my list, this is in the argument for best best one of its series. Like you can make an argument that this is the best entry in the Nightmare series, and there are people that are in that camp. And like to be again, like we have said, to get to your 7th movie and to have not only could you argue your best entry, but to breathe new life into something that was gone, dead and gone. It was dead and buried at that point. Is incredible, and just speaks to Wes Craven and the genius that he was, and which 2 years later reinvents the slasher movie with the Scream and just takes over horror altogether. So Wes Craven is will always be a hero in the horror community for what he did with that and with Scream, revitalizing his own franchise and then revitalizing horror movies in general with Scream. He's a person who will always be missed because the man was a genius. So number 7, New Nightmare.
It's fun. You nailed it. That's the best thing. That's the best thing about that movie was just the meta, how ahead of its time it was. Now meta's almost played out, but it's always fun. But that was just the thing. Like the movie itself, I just watched it like 3 years ago. I couldn't really remember anything in it. I just remember being like, just telling myself, being like, oh my God, this is so ahead of its time. He just nailed it. He just nailed the idea of being like, no, I'm going to create Freddy as a character who haunts the actors in the movie. That's like, if you saw it now, you'd just be like, it's like just kind of the standard play. But at the time,
because everyone's copying off it. Yeah, everyone.
Yeah, and pre-internet, it's so smart, man.
Yeah, it's genius. So yeah.
Cool. 8s. Integrated 8. Trying to think if I had anything in it. This is where I was like, okay, let's get a little interesting. But I mean, ultimately, I wanted to slot in the kind of easier, not slam dunk, but more of a layup pick. Was going to be episode 8, The Last Jedi from 2017, directed by Rian Johnson. I do love this film. I do love this entry into it. Very divisive amongst the Star Wars fandoms. I kind of turned on it more because the fans were like, you have to pick a side in this. It was very much like I felt like the 2016 American election all over again in film form. And what I will say, my favorite character in all of film is Luke Skywalker. I like him the best in Return of the Jedi, but you get no Luke Skywalker in The Force Awakens. So for Scott Despins, all the Star Wars fans got their wishes back in 15. I know you certainly got all the fill of Harrison Ford as Han Solo as you wanted, but I wanted me some Luke. So I was waiting and biting to get to him. And it, I was going to say it doesn't disappoint, but ultimately the character, it's interesting decisions. Reason I picked this movie, though, it's a very rewatchable film. It's a great entry to it. Rian Johnson does some beautiful things. It looks phenomenal. He makes some fantastic camera choices and set choices and costumes. The costumes are incredible. Everyone looks amazing, especially Leia in her regal coats and things like that. She looks awesome. The force powers that she displays are to be debated. And it's a fun debate in the regard of what they do with her character, as well as where they go with, a few others. I love, almost regret not putting it on my top 5 Star Wars moments list, but what happens to Snoke, the demise of Snoke in this movie and subverting expectations that they ultimately came to regret once 9 rolled along and they didn't have a big bad. But that scene for that moment, gasp, the lightsaber, the hand, them, Rey and Kylo Ren teaming up. That whole scene in the red backdrop is so outstanding. And then again, ultimately at the end, Luke's saving the day and facing down the First Order was my number 3 favorite moment in all of Star Wars. So if a movie of moments and beauty ultimately has to be admired for being the 8th entry into a franchise. So while I could have picked, 1, 2, or 3, and strategy wise, I'm part of the very pro Last Jedi camp. I am very anti Rise of Skywalker, but I'm very pro Last Jedi. So for that episode 8, maybe it wasn't as tough a decision, but I do love me some Last Jedi. So that is my 8th entry on this list.
I was actually, it's funny you saying that. There was a point last night where I was actually debating doing the exact same thing, putting this in at 8, because I'm with you. I am definitely very much a Last Jedi fan. Out of the 3 new entries, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker is easily my favorite out of those three, with Rise being the absolute bottom of those three. Just like you said, anti. I love the major decisions that they make and the big swings that they take with Luke and with the Jedi Order, and just calling them out for what they did. I love the lines of like, at the height of their power, they let the Sith Lord rise to power and take over. And like, I love that. I'm like, yeah.
There was a great review.
Like,
I liked.
People are like badmouth that. I'm like, how can you badmouth that? Literally, the prequels are about them like, hey, we got this thing by the ass. And
there's a great review I liked on Letterboxd. Go find it, about Revenge of the Sith, which I'll be watching this evening or tomorrow in preparation for Kenobi. But there's a phenomenal review on Letterboxd I like that talked about the hubris of the Jedi. It's why I hate the Jedi. I think the prequels make the Jedi look horrible and asinine and completely bumbling fools. They're Kevin Malone with the chili in The Office. But no, you're absolutely right. The only thing I just hate about Luke is, like, again, we talked about it on the episodes of the Mandalorian season 3. Sorry, Boba Fett show, but it's the Luke character being like, I'm not going to turn my father, not going to turn my father, being like, oh, there's some darkness in my nephew. He's got to go. And I'm just like, is this? I remember being there being like, listen, I know I'm the biggest Luke Skywalker fan in this theater by far, but like, would Luke do that? Would he kill his nephew if he sent something? Feel like no. So that's where I say, but ultimately we could just chalk it up to Luke the teacher is not Luke the teacher is not great. He's like Wayne Gretzky with the Coyotes.
Luke's got that Skywalker blood in him, just like his father before him. He's a volatile character who
loves killing kids. So yeah, I guess it's a hobby. But again, as you said, we consider Last Jedi, pro Last Jedi. Matt, pro Last Jedi.
I like the movie. We've yet to mention the down points of The Last Jedi, including Canto Bite and Porgs, and more or less the way a lot of people, it's argumentative, was Admiral Holdo correct in not revealing her plan or stuff like that?
Canto Bite stuff's good, kind of where I fall with Fallen Kingdom, where I don't mind preachy stuff in it about like the slaves and the animals. I think that's fine. You have a little message to say. It wasn't that bad. I think there was ultimately the Rose love story was probably the weakest part, where you're just like, really, did we need like romantic love? But I think the freeing of the animals is like fine. I think Canto Bite looks silly CGI, but Star Wars using silly too much CGI. Oh, who could have seen that coming?
But the things that hurt The Last Jedi are what happens next with Rise of Skywalker. If they kept Rian Johnson on, he could have finished
like that's my biggest problem.
Same. Like it's like they listen to all the shitty toxic fans, and we're like, oh, you guys didn't like all that stuff? Here, we're just gonna course correct everything from the last movie. Like, what a load of garbage! What a load of garbage! And then, nobody benefited from that. The people that like Last Jedi hated that. The new people didn't like that because they're like, oh, well, what's going on? That decision was the worst.
Final disclaimer being, we still love Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, we always will. Of course we will. Completely.
Yeah,
no matter what.
With like toxic fans, it's like, oh, Disney ruined everything. I don't care about anything that's coming out from Star Wars because Disney touched it and it ruined everything. Like, get out of here. You're not a Star Wars fan.
By far, as I've said, I am the most loyal person who will never, ever, ever jump off anybody's sinking ship. Case in point, go view my number 1 favorite sequel at number 2. I will never, ever, ever jump off the Will Smith. So I will not jump off Star Wars no matter the decisions they make. And I'm a prequel. I like the prequels. We're going to talk about those. Revenge of the Sith is probably my 3rd favorite movie too.
I just watched the Ewok show on Disney Plus. And you're like, we want to talk about bad things.
I watched the Ewok show when I pulled it off my shelf here because I have the DVD.
We're burning good stuff on the Kenobi LFG, guys. This is good Kenobi talk.
All right, number 8, Matt.
I was so happy I was able to get my guy on this list. I went to my shelf and I counted out the movies. I hit 8 and I was like, perfect. James Bond's Live and Let Die.
I was waiting.
is the 8th movie
Cool.
of the franchise. It's Roger Moore's first outing as 007. We get the more humorous side. Well, actually, no. Diamonds Are Forever really did the camp, so he continued the camp. Live and Let Die has one of, if not the best, James Bond songs written by Paul McCartney and Wings. It's the one song I hear, the one Bond song I hear on the radio regularly.
I watched the man perform it live complete with pyrotechnics, fire and fireworks going. It was incredible. So I'm definitely a fan. Definitely a fan of that song.
I hear nobody does it better all the time on Sirius Satellite. It's a favorite song. I'm just like, man, I hear nobody does it better probably 2 times a day. Please continue.
Jane Seymour as Solitaire, probably my favorite Bond girl. She was on my draft, so that will tell you exactly where she lands on my list. The Ross Kananga, Mr. Big, and his syndicate are my favorite villain and henchman are in this movie. And like I said, the song itself is a mega hit. Live and Let Die.
Nice, awesome. I tried to put a Bond on here and just couldn't fit it on there. So I'm definitely not a Roger Moore fan, but I appreciate
no, neither am I. But this is his best one.
I like agree. Spy Who Loved Me way more, and Man with the Golden Gun a little bit more. But I appreciate it.
Man with the Golden Gun got my man Christopher Lee.
I know.
So cool. All right, so number 8. This is the one where I have to be apologetic. Up until now, I got all bangers as far as my franchises go. Number 8 is not a banger. It is one of the most maligned of the franchise, but it is the first one that I saw in the theater, and it will always hold a special place in my heart. And I don't know why I love it. There's a couple, actually, I'll get into it, but there's a couple scenes I love it, and that is Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
I thought so. I thought you'd have it for sure. That's awesome. I got to rewatch it. I got to watch this too.
It is not good because it's Jason Takes Manhattan. Everyone was ready for Jason to just let loose on the big city, to go in New York and just start murdering everybody. He spends 3/4 of said movie because of budget constraints on a boat to Manhattan, killing people on a boat.
Stuck in traffic.
No, he's killing people on a boat. So most of the movie he is on a boat killing people, and there's some fine kills on there.
He was the first Captain Stabbin.
Yeah, when he finally does get to New York, we get what we want. You get these couple iconic scenes of him, a bunch of punks listening to a big ghetto blaster. He comes by and kicks it and destroys it, and then you get the best part of the movie, and you will love this scene, Scott. He is facing off against a professional boxer on a rooftop.
Yeah, movie kills.
Guy thinks he can box with Jason. Jason literally punches his head completely off, and it is fantastic. So just for a couple of iconic scenes from it, I love it. It's the one of the first ones that, like I said, it is the first one I saw in the theater. I snuck in as a kid with my friends, and I think I was 11 or 12. Pulled the old ticket scam and got in to see it, and we sat there loving it, even though it wasn't great. So it will always have a special place in my heart. Jason Takes Manhattan.
Is this the one that opens with Jason doing the James Bond gun barrel?
I think so. I think it is. Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I don't know. They all get confusing, like because I've always marathoned a bunch of them. Always, all the time. When you get to these ones, is when you watch them within the context of the marathon. And I think that is, it has to be, because it has to be from the late 80s.
It's from 89 for sure.
89.
I gotta watch it. I have a list I followed on Letterboxd. I'm going to New York this summer, so I have like New York movies and movies shot in New York, and New York's a character. So
sort of shot in New York. It's the last about half hour is shot in New York. The rest of it's on a boat in the water somewhere. I think it's like I think they shot it down south. It wasn't even in New York waters. It was like just because, again, budget constraints. But anyway, yeah.
Sure. Great. Cheers. I'm glad that you put that on.
Let's go.
Okay, I'm going to bring us on the last home stretch here, guys. Kind of ties in nicely to my number one and the fact that it's more, I'm bringing it back down. I start with like a tight, contained, emotional thriller. I get into some action movies, some space films, big franchise IP, big set things, and I bring it back to like a more quieter film. You kind of took the wind out of the sails on here, calling it not the ninth film of the franchise. But when you really look at it, bro, it kind of is. So the ninth portrayal of Hugh Jackman takes place in this film. And yes, I'm counting his fuck off cameo in First Class. So he comes in here bidding adieu to his character of Logan in 2017's Logan, directed by James Mangold. What like a cool, powerful neo-Western thriller with lots of subtext on what happens to superheroes when they're not super. You know, he's been doing this for many a century and he's just tired. He's so tired. We've seen it all. This, you know, the payoff with it being this came at his 17th year of playing the character. And I think we had seen him in an X-Men or a spin-off movie. He certainly had the Wolverine in 13, the Days of Future Past in 14. He had the bigger part in Dark Apocalypse in 16, now 17. So he was all over the place with this character. So now we're kind of ready for him to hang up the claws. It's him, Patrick Stewart, and then Daphne Keane, and it's a road trip movie. It's, you know, he's confronting his past literally and figuratively, but it's not heavy-handed that the main antagonist, you know, the muscle, is the younger clone of Hugh Jackman, and he's looking literally in his past and atoning for his sins. And it's very well done symbolically in the film, and I eat that up. So this movie, when we saw it, I was just like, man, what a great send-off to a character. What a like beautiful looking film. It looks great in black and white as well too, which they released that cut. And I just can't believe this movie came at the right time. There was a lot of studio interference with James Mangold when he did the Wolverine. 2/3 of that movie is really neat, and then the last act is fucking atrocious, atrociously garbage. And they, you know, there was a more civilized age once we got to 2017, and they realized the quality of the pictures is what's going to get it. This is also a post-Deadpool movie, so they know that you got to give the fans what they want. Because this, so this, they didn't have a lot going for it, and so they said, we got to make the properties that we have succeed, and they gave James Mangold full autonomy of the franchise, and he delivered. So I do count it. Let's count it as the ninth film. You get the 3 X-Men, the 2 spin-offs, and then the 4 portrayals that he was in with the younger cast as well too. So that brings everything up to 9, and certainly one of the best send-offs of a character. There's a lot, but what a great tie-up to the film for him, Patrick Stewart, and some really powerful scenes throughout. So
prior to the movie's release, there was a comic book series called The Death of Wolverine. And a lot between me and my friends were like, how can you kill Wolverine? He's got the healing factor, so he's quote unquote immortal. I never read the book, but when this movie came out and he was looking older and weaker, and I was just like, you know how you kill Wolverine is heavy metal poisoning because of his adamantium skeleton. Sure, he'll live a long time because he has the healing factor, but that will take him over. And when they implemented that in this movie, I was like, yes, let's go.
Right. But yeah, just great stuff. And then when you rewatch it again, and the fact that how he's every time he puts the claws out, how it's hurting and killing him, so he only does it when he really needs to. It just adds a lot of weight to the film. Now, finish us off. What's your 9?
Okay, my number 9, and I said it to AB in our text because we thought about just doing 7, and then he and I were going to hijack and we're going to do 8 and 9, right? And I was like, yeah, because 8 is James Bond, so I definitely wanted to do that. But 9 was a stretch for me, and I only have 9 because I tried to reach 10. I couldn't get a 10th film on my list from a franchise because then we're getting into deep horror stuff that I just don't watch. But in that deep horror stuff, there is a 9 that I have watched once, and a couple of scenes stuck with me in my mind. I don't own it on DVD, so I can't show you the cover, but my number 9 is Jason Goes to Hell. What is the subtitle?
absolute
The
yeah,
Final Friday.
No, it's just Jason Goes to Hell. That's it.
Jason Goes to Hell.
It is the worst. It is
We-
the worst of the franchise. It is definitely the jump the shark moment of that franchise, which
But
continues.
it was the first Jason movie I had ever seen. Me and my buddies, we were having a sleepover on Halloween, and they rented that. They rented that and Vampire in Brooklyn. I was like, let's watch Vampire in Brooklyn. It's like, no, we're watching Jason Goes to Hell first. Like, oh man. Anyways, the movie opens with the death of Jason Voorhees. The people chasing him catch up with him, and they blow him up with a grenade or something.
Yeah.
His remains are sent to the coroner's office, where I had his name. It's not Richard Grant. He's he's like the king of that guy because he's in so many movies. He played the promoter in Rocky V. The Don King looking guy.
Let's see, Jason Goes to.
You're talking about Buddy from 21 Jump Street?
Was he in that too?
What's his name in the movie?
He's the coroner in which movie?
No, in Jason Goes to Hell.
In Jason Goes to Hell, he plays the coroner.
Phil the coroner is Richard Gant.
Richard Gant. Okay, he has Jason's remains there, and the heart starts beating.
Oh.
And for some reason, he is tempted to pick it up and scarf it down, thus becoming the new Jason.
Yeah.
Those two opening scenes are the ones that stuck with me. And I think there's something about a bounty hunter trying to.
That's what I thought you were talking about. Crichton Duke is Stephen Williams.
Oh, okay, no, but that's not
Crichton Duke. Crichton Duke is the bounty hunter that's trying to track him down. He's in multiple movies, but
the rest of the movie is just a blur. But I tried to get to 10. This is a 9 that I saw, and I didn't include Logan because for me that's Wolverine 3. Thank you very much. Jason Goes to Hell.
Jason Goes to Hell will always make me extremely angry because it teased. It was the first one from New Line, and it teased the Freddy versus Jason because at the end, Jason takes the mask, or the Freddy glove comes out, takes the mask.
Yes, that's another thing that's.
And so it always pisses me off because I was like, that's what we wanted, Jason versus Freddy, and then we finally got Jason Freddy, and it was terrible. But it also had the Necronomicon sitting in one scene off to the thing, and so they're supposed to have Freddy versus Jason versus Ash at that crossover because that was also New Line. And so they started implementing those items in there, and so it was tough. It was a tough thing to not get all the stuff that we wanted. Anyway, my number 9, and we're gonna finish this off. MCU brought all their superheroes together in the Avengers. It was 2012. Years and years before that, we're talking 1968. Toho decided they were going to end their franchise with a bang and bring all of their kaiju together for one final movie. And that movie is Destroy All Monsters. And they have Godzilla and all of his pals going up against King Ghidorah, and just for some all-out kaiju madness. And it is definitely one of my favorites from the franchise. I love this one and the one where they introduced Ghidorah, which is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, earlier. But this one is just a blast. They unfortunately bring back the franchise again with All Monsters Attack in the next one, which is terrible. But this one is if you love big monster movies, you're gonna love this movie because it is nonstop kaiju action. It is really fun. One, like I said, it's got all the big hitters in it. If you love that kind of stuff, if you're a Godzilla fan and Mothra and Rodan and all those guys, you get the whole works in this one, plus a couple new ones. So it like I said, Toho was not going to make them anymore, so they put a big budget into this one, and it shows because it's a lot of fun. But anyway, as a lifelong Godzilla fan, it is a treat. It is a treat to watch that one.
It's great, man. You got monsters, you got Vampires. This is a good list for all of our tastes. Big budget IP, popcorn.
We
niche
crossed over
films.
on franchises, but not movies.
Yeah,
We did.
no.
We got Fallout. We had Fallout.
Yeah, we
that's
Fallout.
right.
What
Oh,
up?
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
a flawless.
I knew.
Tom
I
Cruise,
knew. So when
Henry
I was messaging,
Cavill.
so when I was messaging you guys last night, I'm like, I bet you we're gonna have might have some crossover. I was like, I knew at least one of you guys would have. I thought maybe both you guys would have Fallout at 6. But
yeah, that was the one when I just like. That's like honestly, which we'll talk more off camera here. Beautiful pace, by the way, guys. I'm so proud of us. But that's the one where, like I say, when superhero movies come out, all the people are like, yeah, Black Panther 2 gonna get the best picture. And it's like, yeah, nominated. There's 10 nominations. That's great. But like,
no, X-Men 9 should get the best picture.
that's where I'm just like, what are we talking about? Like, Fallout is so unbelievably good. But yeah, no doubt, man. Beautiful lists, gentlemen. Anything to ask? I was going to say, what got shut out? I don't want to put you on the spot. Certainly, Lord of the Rings.
Terminator.
Lord of the Rings.
Terminator's
big omission left on
the
the cutting room floor.
Yeah, LOTR for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say I was wondering if Harry Potter. I thought Deathly Hallows Part 2. I'm like, well, that's going to get on something.
I thought with you Planet of the Apes honks.
That's a big one
Yeah.
too. Wow, Planet of the Apes.
I thought for sure one of you guys would, especially you get into the later projects. And I thought you might
is incredible.
Try to bend the rules,
and then you could bend the rules and have
7, 8, 9.
I actually had them written so then you get 6, 7, and 8 on the table.
Yeah,
but 8 was almost war.
I thought for sure one of you guys.
The original the original one is one of my favorite movies of all time. But yeah, I had to do the logical choice of Jaws, where it's that movie only, because forget the rest of the franchise.
That's great. Well, let's talk more off screen, gentlemen. God bless. Love you. We'll be back with Kenobi, breaking down Kenobi 1 and 2. So look for that. Otherwise, guys, anything else to add while I get our outro?
Goodbye there.